this is a new series that we are starting for the Running Remote community, and it's called Actionable now. And so what we are hoping that those will be very interactive events, workshops, deep dives into practical tips and frameworks and tools that you need to resolve your most, the challenges that you're facing while running a remote team. And the first one we've decided to do on well-being with Lavinia Iosub from Livit International. They've run so many awards for well-being programs, starting with the Running Remote Awards, then Best Place to Work, and OfficeVibe, I believe, as well. Lavinia will tell us more about it. So I think she's a great person to talk about it, and she's going to share with you lots of cool stuff, lots of documents and frameworks that you can pretty much copy and use them at your own organization. And before she starts, I wanted to give you a quick intro to two tools that we are using today. Butter is one of them. You just joined. If it's your first time in Butter, you probably notice that things are different here in a good way. And so turn on your camera if you're not camera shy. We encourage you to be on throughout the session so we can have a better sense of how you're feeling and how are you liking the workshop. Otherwise, feel free to use avatars. There's plenty of cool avatars here. You can use the reactions. On the left side, you have like a menu. You can use the reactions. There's as well many of them just to give speakers encouragement and feedback throughout the workshop. You can use the chat and chat with us throughout the workshop, especially if you have some challenges with seeing the board that we're going to be using, or whatever challenges or whatever things you want to say. You can take notes, and those notes will be then sent out to you. Butter will do that work for you. And you can also, and this session is recorded, so we're going to send you a recording afterwards as well. The other tool that we'll be using is Miro, and you're probably aware of that tool as well. I just want to share my screen so that, share window, let me know if you're seeing it. You should be seeing a board, Miro board that we've created.
Hi, everyone. Is it just me, or have stopped hearing Kasia? I think we lost Kasia a little bit.
I think we did, yeah.
I know, but I'm still here, so everything's okay. So I think Kasia we are using Miro or Miro. I'm not actually sure. Does anybody know what's the right pronunciation for that? I'm not actually sure. I've never heard it being pronounced by the I guess someone in the team or so. We are going to, it's very similar to Mural or Jamboards. And we're going to navigate the presentation and some of the interaction that way. So I guess that's what Kasia was planning to show you. I'd love to have a quick raise of hands or some ideas in the chat box if you are familiar with this kind of collaborative whiteboard, and if you would like to maybe be able to navigate your own presentation, or you'd like me to actually walk you through the entire thing as I'm kind of presenting. Right. So yeah, I'm very happy to do that. Let's see a couple of other opinions from, trying to find my way around. Milana, just take your time. Let us run it. Okay, so we've got different opinions of that. Aliona, there will be a part that all of us run at some point anyway. So even if I do walk everyone through the presentation, there will still be a collaborative part where you get to explore everything. So yeah. Let me quickly check on Kasia and see what's going on. Same as above, I'd prefer you'd run it. Okay. Kasia saying is her computer decided to reinstall something and restart, you know, one of those exactly when you need it the most. So that's never good. So what I'm going to do is I am going to share a link in the chat that gives you access to the board, so you can have a quick look, because we would like, as I said, even if I'm presenting, we would like to get some input for you from you either way. So let's see if you click on this, if you're able to access it and if it works for you. And if it does, what I would love for us to do would be to, super, I'm very glad to hear it's working. And I would like us to go to this part on the left. What are you hoping to learn? And drop a few thoughts and ideas in there. I would love to hear from you. And then also see who else had confirmed to attend and is here or is going to be here or was planning to be here. Don't worry about the content slides for now. We'll walk through them together. If you can, just have a look here and tell us what you're interested in learning.
I'm back, by the way. I'm sorry, my computer decided to restart in the middle of the intro, but looks like you've done the awesome.
I will, Kasia will stop sharing because people are inside the board. I gave them the link, the latest one we're working in. So if you want to share anything or walk them through anything, please feel free to take over.
Cool. Sorry about that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for doing that intro for me. So I'm just curious because, as Lavinia probably showed you, like Miro is very interactive, and we can do it both ways. So we could, Lavinia could present in Miro and screen share what she's seeing, and we would be seeing all the slides that she's seeing. Or you could be in charge of your own journey here, and you would see the board. You could go and jump from one slide to another. So I'm just curious, it really depends whether you've used Miro before or not and how familiar you are with the tool. So I have a quick poll here that I'm gonna run now, and we'll just ask you, how do you wanna do it? And let's see, so let me see. Okay, you should be seeing a poll now. So let's see how you wanna do it. So again, the first one. Go ahead.
Kasia, just very quickly, there's a very quick setting that you can select to take out the sound when people are coming in, because I guess we're gonna get started, and I think it would be great just on the open setting button, because we can still see people and admit them, but it's just not gonna make the sound.
Great. Do you guys see that? I can only see one person voted. Can anyone else?
I can see 3. Yeah, okay. 3 people. 3 of 12. I can see them already. 4 now.
4 people.
So.
Okay, so far you want to follow speaker's presentation. Let's see. Okay. 4 people. others. Anyone else would like to vote? If not, perhaps we'll just go ahead with that. Okay, great. So
I think quite a few people are on the board, and they are. I can see that they are moving around and adding a couple of things about what they would like to learn. So
awesome.
we can leave a few moments for that because I'd love to hear a few more opinions.
Great. Yes, it would be great if you would just comment on the what are you hoping to learn. You can also see the names of people who are here with us today. Probably not everyone is here, but some of them might join or drop in later. So yeah, feel free to as well take a look here. You have their Slack handles. So if you want to chat with them later on after the workshop, you can just find their names here. I've put the company's names and how long they have been remote for, whether that's since the beginning or that happened during the pandemic. So take a look.
Okay. Do we want to end the poll? I guess we
Mm-hmm.
could. And if you can take one or two more moments to explore the names of the other people that confirmed to come and connect with them, and drop on a sticky note what you'd like to learn, we'll get started. And as you have all, there's a majority of the people who voted, right, who want me to run the board, I shall do that. All right. I will go into sharing my screen as we prepare. And Kasha, I would just like to ask you to tell me if everything looks okay. I'm going to go to the start of the presentation.
All good on
And
my side.
perfect.
Do you everyone can see the presentation that Lavinia is showing now? It's just my report. So yes. Okay.
Wonderful. And you cannot see all the buttons and everything that I see, right? All good.
Yeah.
Super. So, we're chatting today about ensuring team well-being in a climate of digital exhaustion. And I think many of us are looking around either in our own companies or with friends, family, people that we speak with. And we are quickly realizing that following the actual pandemic is now a burnout pandemic, right? Everyone seems to be struggling in some way or another. And we're going to see in a minute where that's coming from and how we can actually help prevent, hopefully protect, and build systems that, are avoiding or helping people not get into that situation in the first place. Um, I have a quick question for you first. It is evening here in Indonesia. I'm tuning in from Bali. I know a few other people are in Europe, in the US, and so on, where different moments of every day. And this is a virtual workshop, so there's always tabs and applications and different things open. And I'd like to invite all of us to take a quick moment to think and do that to basically what do you need to let go of to be fully present in this session. Maybe take a quick moment to close an application, Slack or WhatsApp or whatever it is that might be blinking in the background or in a different tab. Maybe there's a quick message you have to finish up or something. It's going to be hopefully a very meaningful conversation for all of us. There's lots of interactive moments and a lot of insights that I prepared for today. So it would be amazing if we can all, just take the time to let go of whatever the day is throwing at us or is in the background and be fully present in the workshop. All right. So the agenda for today, we're now in the welcome and intro part. We're going to discuss the context of what we're seeing right now very briefly as well. I know all of us pretty much know where we are these days. And then we're going to discuss the idea of culture, organizational culture being an iceberg, and the tools and policies, science and systems that we can employ or look at to build that environment that prevents and protects people from burnout and enhances, nurtures well-being. We're going to have a discussion in breakout rooms and then a Q&A and discussion in the main room. As Kasha was saying earlier, this workshop is very, very focused on having actionable takeaways. So we ask all of you to be open with what you are doing and you're seeing that it's working, to look at what I'm sharing and perhaps, I don't know, think of different ways that could happen in your company, or saying, no, that's not going to work, but I got an idea for something else, and so on. So the whole point of this morning, afternoon, evening, whatever it is where you are, is to walk away with some ideas and actions that you want to take as a result of the information that was shared today and the discussions that we're going to have. So, for those of you who may not know me, I'm Lavinia. I'm the managing partner of a company called Livit International, which is a support system for entrepreneurs, startups, and remote workers who want to build exciting businesses. I am also the founder of a Remote Skills Academy, which is an education platform that upskills and reskills Indonesians, which was born out of my frustration of observing the huge disconnect between people who can work online, namely digital nomads, location independent entrepreneurs, and so on, and the Indonesians around us here in Bali, Indonesia, and in many other places that cannot do so and are stuck in low-paid menial jobs. We have a physical and digital hub for entrepreneurs and startup teams headquartered in Bali, but we are also active in a number of other countries. And we offer work in tech innovation spaces, business services, consultancy, training, recruitment, events. And we've been incubating and nurturing remote capable teams for the last decade or more, since before it was cool, and we were a little bit weird back then, right? Because obviously the mainstream mentality was to have everyone co-located. And the last 2.5 years have been interesting because some of the same people who were wondering why we're doing this came back to us wondering what are the systems, tools, and policies that we employ to build high performance, engaged, happy, remote teams. And as we know, perhaps remote work is not going to be the whole future, but it's definitely going to be a part of the future. So we need to get good at it as a mode that we can go into, even if it's not the default mode that our company or our team operates in. We have nurtured and incubated startups that have raised a significant funding and grew to hundreds of team members. We've worked with over 100,000 clients from Europe and Asia. And at any given time, we work with people from 10 to 25 countries. So that's a lot of why this is relevant to the topic of well-being, is because at any given time, it is go time somewhere in the world, right? Either for a team in the US or in Australia or in Europe, or more of them at the same time, right? So in a global business, in a business with global reach like we do, it's actually quite challenging to make sure that we have healthy boundaries and we're able to disconnect and recharge, which is one of the few things that I would love to discuss today. We won the Flexible Workplace Award at Running Remote in Montreal, as Kasia was saying, and we are among the 2% happiest and most engaged teams worldwide. And we are also one of Asia's very best places to work as of this year. And I would love, because I can see only 12 people in the workshop. I would love to do a quick round of intros from everyone. So if you're able to unmute yourself and share very quickly in 20-30 seconds, your name, where you're tuning in from, and what is your role, or what's the kind of circumstance that leads you to this workshop, how is it relevant to you, that would be wonderful. If there's anyone who cannot unmute or share verbally, you're welcome to drop it in the chat box. Who would like to break the ice?
Hello, I can do it. Can you guys hear me?
Hi. Yes, I can. Hi.
All right, let me quickly turn on my video as well so that you can see me, so that I'm not just a photo.
Hi.
Hi. Hi, hello. My name is Milana. I'm joining from Europe. I'm on a Croatian island, as a matter of fact. It's a beautiful afternoon. And yeah, I'm joining because as my team is currently, so after pandemic and everything, we've had a very intense, let's say, last year and a half, with very intense growth, but also very intense growth in terms of the team, but as well as the business, and currently also out of a very intense high season for us, because our business is highly seasonal. So yeah, very relevant discussion to have right now as to how to tend to the team after basically running after things for the last year and a half.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. And thank you for joining. Who would like to go next?
I can go next, if that's okay.
Sure.
Maybe you could use a reaction so we know, because we're not sure who said that. Was it Nassim? You could just.
No, this is Sucharit. Am I audible?
Cool. Yes,
Yes.
it's great.
Yes.
Hi, this is Sucharit here. I am joining from Singapore, and I represent a company called Lead IQ. I'm the head of remote and also the head of talent and culture here. And yeah, I am predominantly joining because we've got employees in 31 different countries spread all across the world. Digital exhaustion is something which is true, and is something that we are hearing a lot these days. So I'm just joining to see what you guys are doing and try to learn from your experiences. Thank you.
Thanks, Sucharit.
Great. Thank you for sharing.
Well, I guess I'll go then. Hi, I'm Vera, remote work champion at Unlock. main reason why I joined is because I know that Lavinia knows so much, and I really want to learn from her. And same reasons that have already been shared. And I do unfortunately have to go in like a half an hour, so I'm really happy that it's being recorded. But I
Cool.
just didn't want to miss it. So
Cool. We'll get through quite a few things in half an hour. Good to see you, Vera.
also.
We have a couple of people who introduce themselves via chat. So we've got Vicky, who is managing a team of software developers at the state of Michigan, so the local government, and Kaylee, director of people at Checkly, and they also won the Flexible Awards this year, and they're a team of 32.
Yes, we share the stage.
Welcome, Vicky and
Awesome.
Kylie.
Okay, let's take a quick minute to see if anyone else would. I can hear someone popping up.
Yep. Do you want me to introduce myself? Can you hear me?
Sure, please.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Melissa. I'm the Director of Business Operations at Hotjar. My team is responsible for kind of most of the processes, tools, and activities across the company. And we're kicking off kind of an async and a knowledge base and a communications overhaul across the whole company right now. So I think this is definitely a big thing we're interested in, for sure.
Amazing. And Hotjar is doing so many cool things as well. Now I have a little bit of imposter syndrome. I want to hear from you as well. Amazing. Anyone else who'd like to share?
Here, yeah. Yes. Hi, I'm Ginny. I'm the CEO and founder of a company called Niole. We are based in Canada, but we have members in 4 different time zones, and we've been remote for actually more than 10 years since we started the company. And we've grown quite a bit doing lots of different work, but right now we are focused on, or we're specializing in creating happy and engaged cultures and teams, especially with companies that are remote and hybrid.
Amazing.
So I'm very interested. I actually just published, or I'm just about to publish an ebook on well-being, and so I was very curious to see your approach to well-being and see what's coming.
Wow. And I would love to hear from yours as well. So I'm looking forward to the discussion and sharing.
And at the end of this session, we'll have a resource. Like there's one slide called resource, and you can just maybe you could drop your well-being ebook, Gina, and Lavinia has shared some of other resources. So everyone who's attending today, if you have anything that to share with the rest of the people here and those who couldn't attend, feel free to do so in my role.
All right. Should we proceed? Do we have anyone else in the queue? All right. Going once, going twice. Feel free, if you haven't introed yourself, feel free to drop it in the chat box. And we'll have the discussion time at the end as well. So I'll go. I know a few people have to go a bit early, so I'll dive right in. So we all know the stats. There isn't much of a reason to spend a lot of time on this. I just pulled a few of them to kind of show how serious the situation is, and that it's not just in our company or friends or family, that it's quite a general problem that we are all confronted with right now, right? And we can see that 7 in 10 people globally, they're struggling or suffering with their well-being right now. We can see that a lot of 89%, like basically 9 out of 10 workers at companies that support well-being initiatives, are more likely to recommend the company as a great place to work. We can also see that our team members are 3 times more likely to be engaged and advocate for the company when they feel like their values are aligned. And so just basically half, we can also see 47% job seekers basically say that a toxic culture is the reason for looking, right? And then yeah, basically culture is a huge competitive advantage. It's the biggest lever that any organization has to drive performance. And even for those who are very, very business oriented, if we want to leave, let's say we're, really kind of for the sake of rhetorics, we are leaving aside ethical and preferences, personal preferences and considerations. It is 100% worth investing in team culture and well-being, even if we're just thinking of the business point of view, right? And if we're building a company that we hope will last, the number one most important resource is talent these days, right? Money, time, and tech, and everything else at this point is easier to get than securing and retaining top talent. So this is just a few kind of thoughts to make the case for this being an incredibly important topic. I know all of us here already know that because we showed up for this topic and we're writing books about it and so on. And the one on this kind of frame or slide that really strikes me the most is that almost 6 people in 10 would stay at a lower paying job if working for a great boss, right? That respects boundaries, that offers opportunities for growth and so on. That's pretty strong, right? Like more than half people, we a lot of us tend to think, or there's a pervasive opinion that people work for money. They work for money, but they go the extra mile for intangibles. So I wanted us to talk a little bit about culture as an iceberg, right? And for this workshop, I want us to flip the usual order of regular talks and seminars and workshops and talk about the practical bits first, right? And then the theory or the science and so on, right? So we'll talk about what you see or observe if you visit or join Livit, with resources and practical examples, the science behind it, bits and pieces, and how you can get started in a bite-sized way. I tried my best to include very actionable kind of resources for tools, for examples of policies, access to our culture deck, and so on and so forth. But if there's anything that obviously at any point you would like more information on, I'm very happy to dive deeper into it. So the idea of the company culture as an iceberg. When you first join a company, or perhaps you even just go and observe what's happening around, you can see the tip of the iceberg, the very, very obvious things like greetings, how people talk to each other, if there's a dress code, if it's an in-person co-located team, what is the digital or physical headquarters setup? Are there lots of plants? Are there comfortable seats? Is it more like a cubicle situation? And then you start kind of learning about visible yet not as easily apparent things like tools and processes, team meetings and activities, how do those happen, and so on, compensation and perks, right, when you start talking to people. And these are the what, right? But really the most important part of a culture is hidden to the naked eye, right? Is below the water, as we would put it. And it comprises so many things like purpose and vision and expectations and cultural or other types of biases and flexibility, the type of authority, right, that is being exercised, work ethic, values, security, learning opportunities, trust, and so on, right? So I wanted us to go through 5 different direct observations that people made after joining the team or spending time with us, and then deconstruct them to see what's behind them one by one. So we'll start with observation number 1, which is, I've noticed that team members at Livit don't feel the need to be tethered to Slack or email or insert your tool of choice with an invisible umbilical cord. right? They do focus work asynchronously for large parts of the day and have personal lives. So now let's see what tools, policies, and values are behind that. A carefully picked mix between synchronous and asynchronous communication. And I think at this point, if you are not familiar with any of these terms, please don't feel shy. Put a comment in the chat box and we'll address it right away. I think we're using fairly common terms at this point, but they can be different in different kind of regions or companies and so on. So I left here an example or a template for a policy, which is expectations from communication rules. When are you expected to reply to what? And the right to disconnect, right? So we really believe at Livit that people should be able to leave work tools, communication, and spaces behind at some point of their day. We work with flex schedules, so oftentimes people decide when they're working. And we have people working in different time zones in the team as well, clients and partners working on vastly different time zones. So there's always someone working, pinging, asking for something, emailing, and so on. And if you don't take control of that, and we don't enable people to actually fully disconnect at some point, then there's no end to this, right? Like, gone is the world of 9 to 5. We're done with the day. We left the office, and we may get a call here and there, maybe, but we're good until tomorrow, right? Work and play is one of our main values. And for us, values aren't something we put on walls or t-shirts. They are part of day-to-day practice, as well as being used in recruitment, performance appraisals, and so on. And I'll speak a little bit more about that in other kind of on other frames or slides as well. Also here, the same observation, what stands behind it, right? Very, very important to state expectations and policies. A lot of overwhelm comes from people not knowing what's expected of them, when, through what tool, and what their job really is. I work with quite a few companies as a consultant, and I'm always amazed to realize that people have so little visibility and clarity into what their job is and what is expected of them. Really, it sounds so simple, but so many companies aren't able to provide visibility and clarity to their team members. So we have a sort of abridged version of our culture deck or playbook that we shared in the link that you can find on the board, and you can go through the whole thing. It's around 20 pages, and I will refer to a lot of the policies that are there so you can review them later. But I wanted to say a few words about the importance of having a document that basically clarifies all of those things. How do we communicate? How do we take time off? What do we believe in? What do we reward in this company? How do we collaborate with each other? When are we responding within times that are expected, and where are we not, and so on and so forth, right? You can start, if you don't have one, you can call it whatever you want. It can be a playbook, it can be a handbook, it can be a company policies manual, it can be a culture deck, it can be whatever you want to call it. But if you don't have one, start by basically putting down on paper a lot of the things that for you, maybe as an owner or as an HR lead or VP people and so on, may be very obvious, but they are not for your team members, right? We also have clearly defined and documented domains And I'll go into that in a second. So people know when they need to ask for permission or approval or have questions, and when they can act on their own, right? Which means that for a quite big part of the time, they're also able to work asynchronously on their own because they don't need approvals for every tiny little thing. If they are acting on a domain that is assigned to them. And now, a domain is a piece of property controlled exclusively by a team or a person. Obviously, these domains don't need to be physical, actual real estate. They can be things like the official mailing list or the hiring process or expense reporting and reimbursement standards, and so on. And these things are documented in a tool called Glassfrog that we implement our Holacracy through. And they look a little bit like this. So you can see, for example, this is the talent acquisition and talent management circle. And this is one specific role, which is company tools master, and it spells out what that person has authority over, right? It spells out what's the purpose of the role, what the domains are, and what the accountabilities are. A full-time job is often made up from anything between 5 to 10 different roles, depending on how big those roles are. But at any moment, if even I, as the managing partner, as the person leading the company, have sort of questions about who handles what, right? Because things can sometimes grow or evolve really fast. This is where I would go to check who is responsible for what and what their domains are. And now, because we're talking about this, I'd love for us to pull the sync async poll to get a feel of the room and see if we have predominantly sync or async organizations here. So once again, synchronous work and communication is when all of us are physically present or online at the same time, working together, communicating, instant replies, and so on. Async is when people are doing basically work at their own pace at whatever times of the day they might want to. They're able to be disconnected from team communication for periods of time, and basically reply or address what is being asked of them at a certain time when they're working or when they're done with other tasks and so on. Can we pull that the poll?
It's there already. You might not see it.
Oh, I don't see it because I'm in present mode. So I'll need you to share with
The
me.
answer is, let me close the poll and we'll all see. The answer was 4 people voted for mostly async. So most of the people that are here, are working asynchronously.
That's fantastic. I'm preaching to the choir, right? So let's go forth. Observation number 2. So again, we're going to have 5 different observations. Observation number 2 is that team members are able to be open and say when things are a bit much and take some time off, ask for, generally be offered help right away, and recharge, regroup, and so on. What is behind that? Policies, tools, values, science, and so on. So one thing that we do is that we consistently get data, anonymous data regarding engagement and team needs. In our case, it's OfficeVibe, but it can be anything like Pecan for larger organizations, Tiny Polls, 15.5, and so on. We offer generous paid leave. We generally like to think of PTO as minimum rather than unlimited, because a lot of organizations offer unlimited PTO and yet they have people taking 5-10 days off a year. When you're recommending an amount of minimum PTO, people are able to scale up and down as they need it, but you're making it very clear that everybody's expected to take a minimum amount of days. We also offered a sabbatical of 5 weeks every 5 years, generous maternal, bereavement, and more types of leave. And the important thing is not only that you offer these things, but that people really actually take it. And once again, clarity and values that are not only on our walls, but directly embedded in how we hire, in performance management, in compensation, and so on. We literally broke down these values in behaviors. And when we look at hiring someone, when we look at annual performance reviews, we look at compensation and all of those things, we actually take them through the filter of our values. More things that are behind this, well-being allowance, which is both a budget or an allowance and time that you can spend for your well-being. Some examples of ideas that are covered are on the right side. So things like fitness-related things, health risk assessments, spa services, yoga, nutrition-related education, and so on and so forth. This is not an exhaustive list. It's just some suggestions that we share with our team. A very important thing here is educating our teams on how to self-manage during one-on-ones and even dedicated workshops, how to prioritize when there's too much on their plate, how to stay productive when things get hectic, but also how to gauge their energy levels, unwind, disconnect, recharge. And you may ask, wait, do I need to teach my team how to relax now? And my answer is yes, you probably do if you have a team of overachievers and people who are generally very engaged and very proactive in their jobs. More oftentimes they will need to be sort of reminded to take some time off and slow down and so on, rather than the other way around. But obviously depends very much on who's in your team. Observation number 3, people have friends at work. Once again, these observations are like what we see, the tip of the iceberg. People have friends at work and genuinely care about their team. So this is what you see if you come and visit or join Livit. This is what people are saying. Let's see what's behind that. I think we may all be familiar with some of these. Psychological safety, right, being the absolute most important aspect that makes a high performing team, right? Team members feel safe to be vulnerable in front of other team members. This was part of a study that preceded the pandemic. Another interesting study recently, after the pandemic unraveled, is the one on the sort of top right side of the screen, which is the impact of having a best friend at work. We can see that having a best friend at work increases satisfaction. Some of us might feel like we want to keep our personal and professional lives quite separate. And I don't think this means literally your BFF for life. It just means that you want to have people that you would be proud to call friends at work, and work with them. So a few things that we do at Livit, regular team hangouts, and we have only one rule, which is to not talk about work. We pair people, and we've been doing so for quite a few years for donut calls. Same rule. The bot offers conversation openers. It's been used in the running remote community as well, so I won't go too much into that. I've had some wonderful conversations with and found out some things that I would have never ever found out if we didn't take 30 minutes every few weeks to not talk about work, right? When we go remote, we lose the serendipity that we have when we're bumping into each other at the office, to say so. And we need to be more intentional with creating the space and time needed, right, to have those random conversations, to call them so. There's also a couple of other tools or games or team building providers that I'm mentioning there: Cozy Juicy Real, Gather Round. There's tons of them around. I guess the the question or the challenge for many teams is getting people to show up for these things. So I would suggest doing it, in moderation, building support for it from the team, and so on. We also have onboarding buddies, so someone that basically helps you to be onboarded in the company and tells you about how things, where things are, and generally, where to find what, and is hopefully your first friend in the company. We also practice feedback and recognition as a habit. And we nurture this via role modeling amongst the team leads, periodic workshops and reminders, and so on. We've got another poll, right, Kasha? Let me know once we have a few answers coming in.
So the question is, do you enjoy virtual team building? And so far people say depends, sometimes. One person said yes, one person said no. So I guess it depends.
Yeah, it definitely depends. It depends on a lot of things. From what I hear from our team, it depends on, how much work you have that week, and is that going to take away from your work time? It depends on where you are, right? How open or basically kind of transparent you feel like being with your team in that moment of your life. It depends on who, what's the provider being used, right, for the team building, and who runs it, and so on. It depends on a lot of things. So I think that's in many ways, the absolute right answer. I'll go forth to observation number 4. Team members have the ability to organize their workday and their work as they see fit, right? And let's see what's behind that. Autonomy is one of the 3 main motivation pillars, and I have a book recommendation. It's Dan Pink with Drive, what really drives engagement and motivation. And we have in the middle intrinsic motivation. It sits at the intersection of autonomy, mastery, and purpose, right? And it's really powerful to treat people like adults that can manage themselves and their time, rather than peeking over their shoulders and being like, are you done with that? Are you done with that? Can we do that? And so on. We also have the concept of managers of one. The one is you, yourself, right? So you want to be able to, we aim to have everyone in the company to have a reasonable, decent ability to manage themselves. And as I mentioned previously, we have a decentralized authority system that we run the company on based, it's called holacracy. There's a whole discussion around this and a whole workshop and so on. So do let me know if you're interested in exploring more on that after the workshop or during discussion time. Yeah, so basically looking again at what science says, we have the ability to be self-directed. This is what we most of us deeply want, to have autonomy. Mastery, which is the opportunity to enhance our skills and to be better. And purpose, which has obviously 2 sub-dimensions, one being meaning, right? Am I working towards something that is a little bit more than just making someone rich? And contribution, right? What is my impact? Is it tangible? Can I see what my work goes towards, and where my contribution is really being seen or felt? Observation number 5, people here are more than just workers. And again, this is something that I love to look into, because it's so important. I strongly believe that the pandemic flipped Maslow's pyramid, and the why has become maybe the top number one need that people have, right? And the self-actualization and people feeling like they're living at their full potential, and that they're moving towards something, that they matter, and so on. I think this is where the great resignation is coming from, right? Before, people had those sort of safety, security, physiological needs. They were the base, right? And they may have been scared of letting go of a job that was providing them all those things. Now, having been through the pandemic and seen that, our loved ones can disappear ourselves, right? Like, we are so. It was such a strong reminder of how fragile things can be at any moment, right? And the pandemic also offered people a lot of time to think and to reflect, right, on what's really actually important for them. So now we see the base is almost this self-actualization need. Obviously, it's a sort of hyperbole, and I'm really kind of going for it here, but I do believe that the pandemic has flipped or reminded people of what their values are or should be. And at Livit, we're going back to the right to disconnect and not expect to be available at all times. And very importantly, to not be expected to connect or do even a quick task during paid time off, right? And we encourage people to just fully let go. We have something that is called Livit Unplugged. I will actually add it here, which is a collection of, let's say, playbooks that show people how to do your job when you're not there, right? If you're off sick, if you're having a vacation, if you're off on maternal or anything like that, there's a playbook that tells people how you're doing your job, where to find things. So you don't need to be called in or asked whatever during your time off. We also have something that we call Livit Time to Give, which is an ability to use a few days a year, paid days towards volunteering for a cause that you believe in. And we have paid personal development time and expenses with no restrictions on topics. So I know a lot of companies say if you're in finance, you must study something, take a course that helps you do your job better. We do not have restrictions on topics. People can decide to learn whatever they want. So a quick conclusion is that the best way to deal with burnout and the health challenges, disconnect, and costs associated with that is 100% for sure to prevent it, to build systems that systematically protect your people from recurring burnout. And I love this quote that, I don't know if you're familiar with this company, People First Jobs. They're a job board for companies that put people first. And she says, a calm environment that prioritizes deep work, flexibility, and trust could allow me to do challenging and rewarding work while maintaining sensible hours and enjoying more personal time. I believe that businesses focused on outcomes can grow and be incredibly successful without burning out the people that work there. And I think she really drives the point home around this dichotomy that I don't believe it's real. That you can either have a lifestyle business or a lifestyle job and have a personal life and have good balance, or you can hustle and really be successful and really change the world and so on. I don't believe we have to choose one or the other. And a few more takeaways here before we go to breakout rooms. Science already knows that environments that, number one, foster psychological safety. Number two, clearly state expectations. Number three, create norms around communication and encourage the setting of boundaries. Number four, offer belonging, meaning, and purpose to their team members. And number five, are willing to learn, unlearn, and relearn. We all have to do that generate or nurture mentally healthy cultures. This is the result of me looking into lots of science and doing an MBA in human capital development, but it's also the result of at Livit knowing it empirically, right? Seeing that it works and doing our best to practice it. And it's supported by science as well, right? So I'd love for us to go in breakout rooms for in groups of 3. If Kasha can you help with that? I know you've set it up already. And the discussion that we want to have for 10 minutes is what of these ideas or other new ideas that might have not been mentioned here are you going to implement and Okay, so I think people are slowly coming back in. All right, welcome back, everyone. I just want to very, very quickly show you a couple of slides left. I hope you had a good, discussion in the breakout rooms. And I wanted to see if we've got any. So Milana's saying, I'd love to hear more about how you broke down the values into behaviors. I can actually, let's see if, can you still see my screen? I switched the tab.
Yes.
Yes. So I can show you an example, right? A value would be continuous learning, and something basic that we expect for any team member is to seek and embrace new knowledge and implement it in day-to-day work. We expect a high performer, or that's how we would define a high performer on this value, to be self-aware, self-motivated, and disciplined, and be motivated by learning and learning more and being challenged. And a team lead, a high-performing team lead, because we only want high-performing team leads, is, basically has all of this behavior spelled out, right? So that would be a way that we said, values. Integrity, right, for example, is not one of our values, but it's a big word, right? And it means 20 different things for 20 different people. So what does this mean here in this team, right? What does sustainable impact mean, right? This person is quick to admit mistakes and do their best to mitigate them, and believes in sustainability, is mindful of the impact of personal actions, right, on the environment, society, and so on. A high performer would be innovation and solution oriented, right? Suggests approaches and brings forth new ideas, and so on. So those would be some examples. I can, if it's not yet in the culture deck version that we shared, I can share an abridged version of this as well. Do we have any other questions? If you'd like to drop them in here, or just unmute yourself and share. I know we're almost at time, so I'm going to be here for a few more minutes. I'm going to show you what else is on the board. There's a further resources. I added lots of links for the things that we talked about, and there's a couple more that through discussion I realized it would be good to drop and in there, and I will do so. Feel free to drop yours too. And a very kind of open call to action to reach out to me, to exchange thoughts, have virtual coffee. If there's anyone that needs, consultancy training on anything, and also team retreats in Bali, right? You have a QR code that takes you right through my email, and we can continue chatting. Feel free to add me on LinkedIn and so on. And now, for those of you who might still want to hang around for a little bit, let's drop any questions you have in writing, verbally, in the board, wherever you want.
Lavinia, thank you so much. I think we could take a look at the Miro board. There was a section called "What You Want to Learn," and maybe those look like questions as well. Maybe we could
Yes.
take a look there.
Yes. Let me actually have a look.
The board here.
So, most impactful ways to support the team's well-being. Nobody has a definitive answer to that, but I did my best to share our answer to it, right? Both the practical bits and the things that are backed up by science. How to keep people informed without being overwhelmed. This is a very good question, and I invite everyone here to pitch in as well. To me, it's I think there's misconstrued approach that everything has to happen in long weekly or daily meetings. It doesn't. written, concise, clear, written updates and announcements are in many ways the future. They're easy to document and so on as well. So I would say try to instill this discipline in your team to read written updates and to make note of them. And generally, you don't want announcements to just be verbally in a meeting. You want to to have a rundown of things that have been decided and so on. And you definitely want to find a way to differentiate things that are important to know, where you're tagging everyone, where you're asking everyone to acknowledge they read it, and things that are nice to know, right? Like things that are happening somewhere there, and it's nice if you want to peek through and see what's happening, but you don't have to. And this essential things, right? So I think if you make that differentiation, it can be very good. I hope that answers the question, and I invite any one of you to join in there as well. And we also have what are some of the best remote well-being perks that people actually use. And here I would say that the more freedom you can give people to choose the perks that they want. So not to tell people you have a gym allowance, but to tell people you have an allowance that covers all kinds of things. Not to tell people you have a learning allowance that gets you better at time management, but to allow them to spend that time in whatever way they see fit. If I have to make a prediction about the future of work, is that the future of work is tailor-made. It's no longer one size fits all, like it used to be. So we have to allow people the freedom to choose for themselves as much as possible.
Can you tell us a little bit more about holacracy?
Sure. How much time do we have? Because it's a huge discussion. So I'll drop in the resource. So I made a note for myself to drop a little bit of stuff, a few links around or information around Unplugged, Livit Unplugged, and then also around holacracy for those who want to look into it. So yeah, holacracy is a way of decentralizing authority by making it very clear whose authority is what, right? As I was explaining a little bit. And it comes with a whole structure and so on. But basically, the idea is that it makes teams, smaller teams, and individual people or roles finally responsible for certain things. So it's a way of attempting to eliminate micromanaging, I guess would be a way of putting it. But I'm going to drop a video on that in the resources.
Was Livit always like run like this, or that's something that was recently?
2016, so about 7 years now, 6-7 years now.
Is anyone here who is running the same way? Or thinking of it? Okay.
I can share a question. Well, it's not really my question, but I want to help Melissa out because I was paired with her in the group and we had a very interesting debate and discussion. And it was actually around this whole part of spontaneous social interaction and how to facilitate meaningful experiences like that in a bigger team, right? So we brainstormed together and we went for the options that we do in Livit. So donuts, Melissa's company does that as well. Weekly retrospectives, they do the same thing. And I was running out of options or ideas. So Lavinia, I don't know, or anyone else actually, do you have any other recommendations of other types of activities or experiences that would boost engagement, and exactly just create this spontaneous and meaningful social interactions between team members.
I think, I mean, something we've been doing lately is water cooler chats, right? So just I see a lot of activity there, just talking about something silly like, oh, what are your, I think today was like, how do you like your potatoes best? Right? Like, people were like, oh, fried and gratin and whatever. And, some of them were sharing more in other contexts, or having the ability to share a photo challenge or something, right? It's like, what I think what we were doing is a few weeks ago, right, is the most beautiful places you've ever been in, right? And it allows people to join in, and they often do, and it allows others to lurk and look at things and be silent and join next week and so on. So it doesn't always have to be synchronous either, right? As long as you get people to talk about something else than just work, and it's important that we feel we are all, I don't believe in bringing the whole human to work, because I don't think the whole human belongs at work, but I think it's definitely more than that, just the professional hat that was traditionally defined as being appropriate for work, right? So, yeah, that would be another way I can think of, I guess. And then also, I think when people are reluctant to show up in bigger groups, smaller groups can be the way. And I would love to hear from other people in the workshop if they have other ways of connecting, getting people to connect with each other.
I love the idea of the mini retreats. I think we chatted about that, Melissa, one day. It's something that Dois is doing, and I think retreats are such a powerful way to get people together and know. I just came back from seeing my team for the second time, and it always gives me so much energy. And I think those mini retreats when smaller teams are meeting, not once a year, but maybe twice, 3 times a year, it's something very powerful.
Absolutely. And I think the common agreement now is that in many ways, in many of these teams that have been remote for longer than just being remote forced, right? Remote first and remote forced, is that you can maintain connections remotely, but you probably want to form and refresh them every 6 months, a year or so on in person. So if you have the ability to do so, and people are able to travel, or you're able to at least get people in a smaller hub, right, like regional hub or something, even if you can't bring everyone together, that is definitely a way of spicing things up. All right. Any other last minute questions or thoughts or things that you want to share that your company is doing super well?
I don't see more questions, Lavinia, here.
All right, then we will wrap up, and I look forward to keeping in touch with those of you who are here. It was really nice to see some of you again, and really nice to meet some of you. And I hope you either saw some new ideas or were reminded of some, and I hope that you take action, whatever that is, because it's an essential topic we can absolutely not hide from. Thank you so much for attending, and have a great day, morning, evening, afternoon.